On this episode of Building Men, challenging the status quo and living as a man on purpose. A conversation with the man, the myth, the legend, Ian Lobas. Welcome to the Building Men podcast. I'm your host, Dennis Meralda. When was the last time you focused on self-care and the holistic health of your body? GM Revolution is a men's skincare line with a mission to introduce men to proper skin health. GM Revolution offers 5 skincare products that act as one to give men exactly what their skin needs. Whether you struggle with acne or you're looking to prevent fine lines, GM Revolution works hard to strengthen your body's largest organ, the skin, to fight as your body's first line of defense against your environment. Using code BUILDINGMEN, one word, you can save 15% on all of GM Revolution's products and start seeing the physical and mental benefits of skincare. GM Revolution encourages you to be the revolution in your own life. Now, back to the Building Men podcast. Hello and welcome to the Building Men podcast. My name is Dennis Meralda. Building Men is geared toward helping you become the strongest version of yourself, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and physically. I'm honored today to be joined by our guest, Ian Lobas. Ian is the host of the Men on Purpose podcast. He's a personal performance and business coach. And you can find Ian at Ian Lobas International and menonpurposepodcast.com. So I have a man crush on this guy who's on the Zoom meeting with me right now. I wanted to introduce everyone to Ian Lobas. Ian, welcome.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you having me and being here.
Absolutely. I got to tell you, I have a hat on, t-shirt on. For some reason, I felt like I had to do my hair and wear a button-down shirt today.
and I'm a hat and t-shirt guy.
Yeah, me. Usually I am too. And I did 2 other interviews today. And I kind of looked, I was like, I probably had sweaty armpits and whatever. I was like, for some reason, I feel like I had to take a shower and kind of get dressed up for you. I don't know. It's a compliment.
I appreciate it. It's probably because when I interviewed you for my podcast, I was sitting in a house in Beverly Hills.
Yeah, you definitely, you made me up my game a whole lot during that interview.
Yeah. No, so dude, the only thing that's important is the content.
That's it.
That's all that matters. You could do it in a Borat Speedo. All they care about is content.
The next time that we do a podcast together, that's what I'm going to wear. I'll put that out there right now. So if we have a follow-up interview, I'm going to have to find one of those. So we met about a month ago or so. I went on your podcast, Men on Purpose podcast, which was such a blast, having an opportunity to bullshit with you for an hour. And after that episode, I just did a deep dive into Men on Purpose. And there were so many episodes that really resonated with me. And I'm going to really recommend anyone who's listening to the Building Men podcast, you need to take a couple days and just lock yourself in a room and just get to know Ian and his journey and his experience. It really, such a motivational podcast for men. And it really hit home with me in so many levels. So I just wanted to, thank you for, your journey. It's definitely inspired me.
Yeah, well received. Thank you. I really appreciate that. It is my mission, kind of like your mission, your journey was through teaching and all that stuff, and you found your mission. Same thing. Like I did it through real estate and found my mission as a coach. And obviously I got dialed into my mission like you have with Building Men. I found my passion within this mission.
Right.
That's what it was. And the business exploded from there.
And I'll kind of start with, there was a moment you talk about in your bio and on a couple of the podcasts where you kind of woke up one day and you looked in the mirror and you didn't really like the person that you saw. It was like this moment where the man in the glass was not someone who you were like, I'm proud of this person. So if you can kind of take us on a journey, so that'll be the ending point. So start wherever you want to start on your journey. You could start as a glimmer in your father's eye. If you want to start there, but take us to that point where you got to this point where you're looking at yourself and you didn't recognize the man in front of you.
That wasn't even that one time, man. That was like every day for me for probably 15 years. Wow. At least. Yeah, at least 15 years where I felt very disconnected, and I like from the world, and I felt like I was kind of living on my own little island. And in order to get, and I know this will resonate with a lot of your listeners, in order to get love and attention and affection and appreciation, I thought you needed to be really successful. And I in subsequent years, a lot of the personal development journey that I've been on, plant medicine journeys I've been on, I realized that, being really successful, having money as like an identity, as a purpose, it was false. I mean, obviously it was fake, but my dad was going through the same thing. He was using his business as a escape pod to have to deal with his problems, which, you'll hear on my podcast. My dad's on my podcast all the time,
yeah.
which was his mom passing away when he was young. And that hurt him so bad that he had trouble facing that until I think he was like probably 60 years old. And then, one day I was like maybe 11 or 12. And I remember my mom was always super awesome mom, helicopter mom, but like awesome mom, loving, caring, but very like in her own head too, with her own trauma and head trash and all that shit from her past, like anybody's parent is. They're going to filter that through you unless you make a choice not to, which, myself and you as evolved parents, we try not to do that. I mean, I'm sure we fuck our kids up in a way, but like, and I realized that one day I was watching Jeopardy in the kitchen while she cooked dinner, and I answered 3 questions right. I remember this like it was yesterday. And my mom turned around and my brain registered like, you're getting attention now. And she stopped what she was doing, turned the stove off, and sat with me and said, wow, you are so incredibly smart. How did you get that? Like, and she started giving me this praise and this love that I really hadn't felt in that way before. Then instantly my brain went, if you're smart, then you're loved. And so I set out on a journey to be the smartest guy in the room, which is dangerous, right? I needed to know about everything so that I could be included in any group and loved in any group. And that was obviously not the right direction. Serves me now because I know a lot of shit about a lot of shit, but did not serve me for a long time. And then with my dad, I always felt like I could never, and I obviously learned this subsequently later on in life. I joined my dad in business after college. I worked for my dad my whole life. I really never had a job. I've never written a resume. I never cared about that. I never wanted to work for anyone. That scared me more than anything in the world. And my dad always said, like, you can work for me. It's your choice if you want. If not, it's totally cool. But if you come work for me, like, let's build something. If not, like, go do your thing, but don't do your thing for someone else. Never write a resume. Your resume is your plan B. Never have a plan B. You got to make your plan A always work. Burn the boats. And I was like, cool. That's how I did. That's how I grew up. And subsequently what I learned, I worked for my dad for 8 years. We built, his business was already 20 some years old, and we increased the sales by probably 5x when I was there. And then the 2008 shit happened and started really like breaking apart at the hull. And I left in 2012 and I started a real estate business, and I was lost. And all I did was I went from my dad's business where I was lost and disconnected to my real estate business, where in order to get love, I needed to be the smartest person in the room. In order to get approval and appreciation, I needed to be the most successful person in the room. So I ran that racket in my brain, in that program, for the next probably 4 or 5 years, until every day when I would say to myself, God, is this it? Is this really it? This can't be it, man. I feel like I'm wasting it. Like, I've got a ton of money. I've got all these trophies and accolades, but I'm empty inside. I hate my life. I hate who I am. I'm not a great dad. I'm an even shittier husband. What am I doing with my life? What the fuck? What am I supposed to do here? What am I here for? I can't be here to sell real estate as a commodity, which a realtor is a commodity. You can fight with me all day long. Not you, but all the realtors. You're a commodity. You're replaceable. Because if your life ends midday through a transaction, another realtor is going to come in and finish the transaction, and that client becomes that realtor's client, because you're dead. And even if you like quit the business or whatever, you are replaceable as a real estate agent. Now, there are amazing real estate agents out there, and many more of them are shit, but like, there are amazing real estate agents out there who have very loyal clients. But at the end of the day, if you cease to exist, your clients will find somebody else very easily. And I knew that. And I just hated having to compromise who I was and what I felt to earn money, to earn my place, to earn respect and love and identity and power. And I hated that cycle. And one day, I think I told you when I interviewed you, one day my wife said to me at the end of 2016, are you really the measure of a man and the model of a man that you want your daughter to attract into your life or into her life? And I said, no. And that broke me. And that was the day that I was like, all right, I'm done. I need to make some changes, big changes here, because I don't want this little girl who is It's my responsibility. I brought her into this world. I mean, obviously, God brought her into this world and created that, if you want to believe that, or the universe or whatever you're into. But I brought her into this world, my choice. And it's my choice how I share with her the journey forward and who I show up as. That's my choice, regardless of my trauma or my past or all the, my getting foreclosed on by the bank and my car's repoed and all the shit I went through in life, ups and downs. I have a choice every day to either show up as a dad that she can be proud of, that I can be proud of, and create a legacy and be an actual legend and a man on purpose, or I can continue living this life and provide her with a bunch of money and be miserable. And that transcribes through, or whatever you want, where it transitions through. And now I'm just another dad who wasn't on purpose with their kid. And I couldn't deal with that. I just couldn't. And my wife said, I can leave and I can be replaced, and I can find another guy that could be a dad figure for her, but she's never going to replace you, and you're never going to replace her. You guys are stuck. Everything else can be replaced in your life. And it was the first time I ever realized that I really am not replaceable. Like, I have to put the work into me so that this little girl has the best shot of building her power inside and following my model and my wife's model of what it means to be on purpose in this life and live without restriction and constraint and actually get the life you want and not deal with all the shit inside. But if you do deal with the stuff inside, to actually have the skills necessary to get rid of it, move on from it, so you can continue to pursue the life without all the distractions that the world throws at you inside and out.
So deep there. And one of the reasons why I felt initially connected to you was that hero's journey that you've been on. That's what I've recognized. One of the things with building men is trying to figure out what is it internally that we have as men, some of us, not all of us, that helps us persevere in those times where we have that kind of come to Jesus moment where we're looking at ourselves saying, what went wrong? Where did it go off the tracks? And what can I do to get it back on? Some people will fold in that situation. So what is it about us as men that can help, that we can pull ourselves out of that muck and understand that it's not about the external validation that we're seeking. Everything has to come from inside. And if we're going to truly be the best we can be in a relationship with a significant other, and especially with our kids, we have to be able to look in the mirror and be like, I love you, man, and be good with saying that. And so you had that moment where you were like, and your wife, her name is Meredith, right? I want to talk about the podcast you did with her, because that was just an amazing episode. But the fact that she said that to you, the courage that it took for her to verbalize that shit to you, because that could have just slowly went off track, and all of a sudden you don't recognize each other after another 5 years because those words aren't spoken.
Yeah. Dude, look, it harkens back to one choice. It's that eagle. It's the line from the Eagles that you told me last time. It's that, like, to tie it into this podcast and what you told me on mine as I interviewed on my podcast. Tell everybody the line.
So it's so oftentimes it happens that we live our lives in chains and we never even know we have the key. It's the awareness that I had the key, that it wasn't going to come from the outside, that it wasn't going to come from more money. It wasn't going to come from my wife or my daughter. They were catalysts, but that I had the key. And the moment that I understood that I was in charge here, no matter what my past has been, what my parents did, what school did, what the client did last week, or the guy who cut me off in traffic, no matter what, I have a choice every day, and I have the power to unlock that thing inside. That's all I needed to know. And in my coaching business, one of the courses, one of the ways that I coach people through is there's 4 phases. Illumination is the first one. You got to figure out what you don't know. You got to understand yourself. You got to understand what's possible for you. Then you got to start eliminating stuff. You got to cut out what doesn't work for you anymore. Habits, mindset, people, skills, ways of being, attitude, language. You got to cut those things out. Ways you spend your time, energy you waste, or, all that stuff needs to be eliminated when it doesn't serve you. And one of the things that I did was I did a deathbed confessional on ayahuasca, and I needed the ayahuasca because I needed deep. I wanted dynamite on that bedrock. I didn't want to just kind of chip at it with a little tool. I wanted dynamite. So I did an ayahuasca journey, ceremony I don't know when it was. And I died. I saw myself on my deathbed. I saw what I was doing.
I felt the emotion. I felt my wife's emotion, and I felt for the first time in my life regret. The regret that I would feel when that inevitably happens for all of us. The regret that I would feel not being the dad that I needed to be, not being the man, not being the husband, and then I can't go back. It's over. It's now T minus, hours, not years or decades. And I saw that, and it wasn't just in that, like a coach had taken me through that actually a couple years before, but it didn't hit me as hard. Seeing that in that plant medicine journey, and I'm not promoting plant medicine, I'm just telling you what really helped me. Yeah. Seeing that again, same journey, by the way, same exact thing I saw with him, except this time the feeling was real. I really felt like I was dying and I was ready to go. And that what I saw that time versus the time my coach took me through it was that we were all just standing around happy. Even though I was leaving the earth, everybody was happy. My kids, my grandkids, my wife, other family members, friends, and we were celebrating. There was a huge TV up on the wall. And what we were doing was we were just going through the memories that we created. And we were just going through the experiences that we had and the moments that we shared. And that's a part of my mission, which I'll read to you if you want, which after that, I had a mission, I had a why, but I went back in 2018 and I recrafted this mission. And for the last 3 years, actually 5 years, I've been crafting this mission as tight as possible to guide every single move that I make. I told you before, I think I shared this on the phone. Like I had someone offer me a 7-figure position at a company, pay $1 million a year. And there's more bonus where that came from. And I was like, I appreciate it. I'm humble. Like I'm really grateful that you're thinking of me. And the answer is no. And the guy said, what are you nuts, man? It's a ton of money. And I said, yeah, but a part of my mission says without restriction or constraint. So it's a no, not emotional. It's just no. I really appreciate you. Thank you for thinking of me. And he goes, dude, this is a huge opportunity. I said, yeah, but not for me. I know how to make that kind of money. I don't need you to do that. And with you, I'm going to be restricted and constrained, which means I'm not going to be able to celebrate with my family, max time with my family every single day in the house and out of the house, out in the world as our playground, as our classroom, unrestricted and unconstrained, free to live a life on purpose of our choosing. And I'll read the whole thing to you. And that was so clear. And once I started doing that and showing myself that like, you follow this mission, this is where you need to be. Like, this is dead on. Any alteration, you're off course. Stay right here, make choices on this mission for that little girl and subsequently my son who was born last year, and you will serve. And at that end of your life, you'll be able to watch all the intentional things you did on a screen, whether it's a TV or whatever the hell's, there at that point. And everybody will be celebrating the life that you lived and the legacy that you are leaving behind or created by who you were, not what you did or what you have. At that point, I also established and cut a bunch of mentors and coaches and guides out of my life who I was modeling because of what they had and what they did, not who they were. And I started only mentoring and modeling after and accepting coaches and coaching from people who were the men or women that I truly wanted to become. And that was a huge piece. And I started just removing pieces from my life that no longer served that mission. And then like fast forward, when my coaching business really took off, real estate didn't serve me anymore as a means to an end. I had to leave. Yeah. The coaching business accelerated, and then Men on Purpose showed up, and that accelerated. And then the mission just got tighter and tighter and more focused. And I mean, dude, there's a lot of stuff in between all that stuff that I just told you, but it's really about understanding where you're not on track, eliminating the distractions and the things that you're doing or being that keep you off track. And all it'll do is let the universe pull you back on track. The universe will guide you. God will guide you. And I'm not a religious guy. You can believe in what you want. Universe or God, your call. It's just a higher energy, calling, guide, whatever. All you have to do is just let go. That's another thing. I read the Surrender Experiment.
You, in the podcast with your wife, there was a quote that I pulled from there that I loved. Basically, he said, let go of the handle and trust that the fall will not kill you. I wrote it down. I was like, this is bold. What you just said. And then your father, a conversation with your father was, if it's meant to kill you, then it's going to kill you. Those two things, I was like, wow, that's fucking amazing.
Yeah. My wife and my dad, and not to leave my mom out, but like those two, there's not many women that could put up with a guy like me. Not many. And because of who she is for me, I wanted to change. Like I wanted to shift and evolve. I wanted to be the guy that she's proud to be with, and not just like, oh fuck, man, I guess this, this ride sucks, but I'll just deal with it. I have lots of people that I know, and they're married because it's convenient, and they're basically roommates at best, and they get to sleep with each other every once in a while, if that. And it's not the type of life I want to live. So, that my dad always taught me that you got to let go. You cannot control the outcome, and you cannot be focused on the outcome. You cannot control it. So let go and just trust yourself and the universe or whatever, that the direction you're going is right. And if you fail, then get your ass up and change coordinates or positions or shift fire a little bit. Like my great friend, Captain Todd Salas, tells me all the time, it doesn't work. Shift fire. Because if you don't shift fire when someone is firing at you, you'll die. Really. In your life, if you don't shift fire, you might sting a little bit, or you might lose some money or a friend or whatever, you get divorced. But when someone is firing at you from the north, you fire back at the north. But if they shift position and fire at you from the south, and you don't fire and shift fire and fire to the south, you'll die. That's how real that is. Shift fire is a very, very important part of life that I learned from Todd a long time ago when I was a little kid. And you got to let go of control.
Yes.
Like, it's like you have to trust that there's a landing, that you want to quit that job just like you did. You trusted that there was a landing. You let go, and you knew that the fall wouldn't kill you. It hurt like hell potentially, but it wouldn't kill you. You just got to do it.
And recognizing, on that fall, you might hit into a couple trees and hit a cliff, but it's not going to kill you. And you know what? No. If it does, then it does. But it was one of those things where holding on to something that wasn't authentic and wasn't real to me anymore, I couldn't do that either. That was a slow death. Totally. I was like, let me take the fast one and see where it leads. It could lead to this really great spot. You mentioned that initial validation. You were saying, the Jeopardy thing with your mom. That struck a chord with me, and I'm going to go on a little bit of a deep dive here with that. So mine was with my father. That validation was with my father, and me and my father have gone on this big journey, especially through this podcast. Now he listens to every single one of the podcasts, and I'm going to have him on as a guest. I said, after talking to you and listening to your podcast with your old man, it's important for me to have him on and to kind of memorialize those conversations. For Mother's Day, my younger brother and I did a kind of a tribute to my mom. So we did a Happy Mother's Day, and we talked about Patty Meralda. It was like a big thing. So I'm going to have my dad on and talk to him about the journey that we went on. It'll be a deep emotional journey. But with my validation was around athletics. So I was a really good athlete. I played football, basketball, and baseball. Baseball was my sport. And validation came from me hitting a home run. You hit a home run, you get $100. You strike out 15 guys in a game, I'll get you a new bike. So for me, there was a physical athletic performance that was tied to an emotional connection with my father, who I just held as like the pinnacle of what I wanted to become. But there was this transactional thing that happened between the two of us that as an adult, I came to kind of resent that. I was like, I wish it could just be, listen, son, if you go out there and you fucking strike out 3 times, you get the hat trick, and I still love you. You're still my boy. But I always felt like if I didn't perform, then there was not that level of love with my old man. And that really, it hurt. And I always thought, I'm never going to do that with my own kids, but I understand why. He was trying to motivate me. And my big shift was, it's not about blame and this, it's just understanding why he did it. And for him, he was thinking he could motivate me to become better, and wanting to be the best I can be by attaching some extrinsic value to that. So you talked about a couple pieces of nuggets of wisdom that your father gave to you. What were things as far as traits that you learned from your dad that you said, I want to be this as a man, and conversely, I'm not going to do this when I'm a father?
On the last episode I did with my dad, which, by the way, dude, that is special. That's special to us as sons, and that is very special. Like, I don't think our dads will tell us that. My dad doesn't really share a lot of feelings and stuff, but my dad shows me how much he loves me by like the things that he does for me and the way that he asks me questions, and he's very genuinely interested in what I'm doing. But like, that's their generation. That's okay. It's still a choice that they make. Yeah. But like, how special is that for us to share? I said that on my last I did a Facebook Live on my dad's episode 201 on the Men on Purpose podcast. And I said, this is the cool thing. Not only are we sharing our dad's stories of their trials and tribulations, failures and shit like that, but people get an inside track And to hear a father and son in the 40s talking together, communicating, conversing, being vulnerable. Like I tell my dad everything I remember, good and bad, on those episodes, and he responds. But it's not like you did this wrong. It was like, this is what I learned from this. And it wasn't wrong. There was nothing wrong that my dad or mom did. So the things that I learned from my dad are, one was taking risks at a very high level. On that last episode, we talk about when I was 4 years old and my mom was sitting in the living room in a body cast because she had a spinal fusion. And my dad came home and he said, I quit my job. I'm done. And we just bought a new house, new car. My mom's in a body cast, right? So she can't move. She's laying there. There's nurses at the house. It's brand new house in a town that was kind of up and coming. It was a little bit of a gamble and it was really expensive for them. And I remember sitting on the bed and I felt the energy shift in the room. And I looked at my dad and the look on his face was like ecstasy. It was pure. It was like, I'm fucking doing this. I'm doing this. And he let go of the bar and he knew that he wouldn't die, but it might hurt a little bit and we might lose the house and we might do this, but he knew that for legacy and for a lifetime, he would never regret. He would always regret not taking that chance. If he didn't take that chance that day, and this is to encourage other dads out there, if my dad didn't take that chance today, I would not be who I am today. And not because of the money he generated and the multimillionaire he became. And then, lost a lot of it, but because of watching him take that chance and then being a part of that business growth, I was able to share that with him. And I never would have taken chances if he wouldn't have modeled that. I was so scared, so anxious, so panicked, depression, all that shit that you feel when you are. Jim Carrey says, when you're tired of being the avatar, the character that you keep playing, like that's depression. That's depression. Depression is not a real thing. In my opinion, it's not real. Because I was the guy that was on constant anti-anxiety, ADHD, and depression medicine up until the time I was probably 33 years old, 35 years old, 33. And the moment that I shifted inside and started making different choices for my life is the moment that depression went away, because I started to align with who I really, truly was supposed to be, not fighting against it and resisting the guy that I was supposed to be. So the other thing my dad taught me was, there's a shit ton, man, but one of the things that really pops out is you got to be smart about being stupid. You're always going to do stupid shit, but you just have to be smart about it and understand the consequences. My dad he would tell me, I was 16 years old. He'd be like, you guys getting into tonight? And I was always honest with him. I'd go, we're going to go in the woods, get a fire, drink some beers. And he goes, just be smart about being stupid, son. A lot of consequences. You can learn from my mistakes or yours. Mine are easier. They cost you a lot less, but just be smart about being stupid. Like, don't drive. If you need, I'll come pick you up. You will not be in trouble. I will celebrate you because you call me. So those two things are probably some of the biggest for me that I still use in my life. I have a whole list of quotes that my dad has told me, and I tell a lot of them on the podcast, but taking risks and trusting yourself. Oh, the other big one, when I left his business and I went into real estate, was, my mom tried to protect me. My mom said, look, you're not really good at test taking and you're not great at math. Why don't, maybe not for you. And I don't blame her for that. It motivated me at the time. I kind of had this F you attitude, watch me. And that motivated me. That was great. And I turned it into a positive. But my dad said to me, look, you can go work for somebody. I won't judge. Even though your grandfather and me, we've been entrepreneurs and 7 generations of entrepreneurs, I won't judge. I will love you regardless of what you do, but I know how great you can be. So whatever you do it at the best of your ability. And you grow to as great as you can be. Don't sit in it, grow in it. And I said, well, I want to start a business. I'm going to get into real estate. And he said, look, all you need to do is push all the chips in on you. You always bet on you. You'll never fail you unless you choose to. So whenever it comes down to it, you always have to bet on you. And as long as you can step up and deliver and honor that commitment, you'll always win. Always, always win. You'll lose and fail yourself if you don't step into it as much as you should. But if you go all in on you, you have no plan B, you'll make it work because you're a smart guy. And that's it. My dad never pushed me for grades. He always said to me, look, I know you could be a straight A guy, but I don't need that from you. I think if you try and get straight A's, you're going to waste a bunch of other experiences that you could get in college or in high school. So don't do that shit. Who cares? And by the way, grades don't mean anything, because you're never going to get a job. You're never going to write a resume. Nobody's going to see your grades. They're just for your parents, us to see, and for us to judge you on, like the school judges your ass on. And I don't care. So don't let the school get you down. You get a C on something. If you feel that's the best you can do, I'm cool with that. That was it.
He was revolutionary in that train of thought back whenever he told you what he was telling you. It's funny, as you're talking right now, you said you wanted to be the smartest person in the room. And I think about my experience as a principal for so many years. I mean, you would have been in my office without a doubt. And we would be having existential conversations about life, about why you got kicked out of class because you told the teacher they were wrong about whatever it is. I could absolutely see that happening.
Well, dude, one time, it's a funny story. One time in in high school, one of like the business professors was talking about something. And at that point, I was already doing personal development. I was already reading magazines about yachts and cars and houses, because at that point I thought I needed that to be free. When I have a yacht and I have a house, a mansion, and I have a private island and I'm flying on a private jet, I won't have any of these anxiety. I won't have this problem anymore. And I thought that was real. So I fucking studied. I cast visions every day, all through high school, all through college, and even afterwards about what I wanted in life. And I remember this guy said to the class something about being wealthy and rich and like having $10 million for retirement and all this stuff. And I raised my hand and it said, no offense, but I'm not taking advice from a guy that drives a 10-year-old Corolla. And I got kicked out. I almost got suspended for it. But I sat and talked with the dean of my school. And he said to me, look, I don't think you're a bad kid. I think you're really curious. And I actually appreciate what you did there. And I want to strengthen that. But you can't do that in class. I want you to do shit like that after class. This was a Catholic high school. This guy could have busted my ass. Yeah. But he didn't. And the dean of discipline said the same thing. He called me into his office. I was in detention almost every day because I was defiant. I don't believe you, because you're not a model of what you're telling me you think is going to happen in my life later on by the book that you're reading from. And I don't believe you. But the dean of discipline, Pat Curran, great guy. He taught me how to dress properly. He taught me about gig line and my hair and like how to show up for the world in your best light. I hated him at the time, but I really appreciate him now and after high school. And he said to me, I was sitting in his office. I don't know if he's dead or alive. He's a great man. I hope he doesn't get in trouble for this. But he is still alive. He said, you're a motherfucking pain in my ass, Lobas. And I said, well, I appreciate that, sir. And he said, but you know what? You're going to be something one day. You're going to be really successful one day, because I see an edge in you. I see something in you. Like, your defiant attitude isn't just to be defiant. You're challenging people because you actually want to know. And I support that. Now, you have detention for the next 65 days and you will sit there. But if we're ever alone in detention and you're the only one, I want you to push me. I want you to challenge me. I want you to tell me what you're challenged with. I want you to tell me what you're defying in your classes. And I was in detention alone some days because all the athletes, besides me as a varsity swimmer and water polo player, I didn't get out. But the football and lacrosse and baseball guys always got out early. So go figure. But he taught me a lot about my defiance. And I think he helped me along with my dad. They helped me hone my defiance and not defiance necessarily, but my curiosity for why somebody told me I have to do that. And I carried that through college, and I became very good friends with the dean because I challenged the professors on everything. Like in accounting, I'm not doing a spreadsheet. What are you, nuts? No way. My senior accounting course, I'm not doing a spreadsheet. Why? Because it's a digital world. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing it on paper. No way. Absolutely not. And he said, well, you'll fail the class. I said, okay, well, I'll go to the dean. No problem. So I wrote a 3-page paper on why that would be taking me backwards, while I'll never need to do a paper spreadsheet in my entire life. And the dean supported me and let me do that. And that was my defiance, but I was defying and challenging at the same time because I was curious as to why you thought that. And I'm challenging your thought process because I don't think you're right. I don't think you're 100% right. And it's served the shit out of me all my life.
I'm so grateful that you've had those 3 men in your life, between your father, the dean when you were in high school and in college. Because think about it, if one of those 3 people showed up in a different way and didn't allow you to express what you were thinking, in most educational institutions, you are a kid who gets, you're sent out of class, you get detention, you get suspended. Mm-hmm. And then they're like, we can't deal with this kid in this school because he's so defiant, because everybody else has a fucking stick up their ass. and they're not
Yeah.
truly listening to kids. They're basically telling kids, this is where you need to be, this is how you have to act. And most kids will stay within the line, and those kids who step a little bit over are the ones who are chastised for it. So these people, they allow you to kind of understand and grow, push your chips in and bet on yourself in a way like you got that positive reinforcement from pushing back against the machine. I'm so grateful that you had that experience. Not everyone has that similar experience.
Dude, when I was in middle school, I remember it's like clear as day. My dad's like, no, I was in high school. My dad's old office. I was sitting in there, and I remember him saying, "You got sent home again," and because I was at his office, and I was like, "Yeah." And he goes, "What'd you do?" And he was always so curious. He never my dad was an angry guy. He yelled at me a lot, but he never got mad at me for challenging. And he said to me, "Fuck those people. Always challenge them. You're way better than them. You just haven't set into it yet. Always challenge them. Regular people tell you that something's wrong or right, challenge it." And he enforced that. My dad was the main driver of that. My mom did a little bit too. My mom's a little defiant, but my mom worried too much about what people were going to think. And my dad would say to me, "Look, as long as you have a theory in your mind that's not going to hurt anybody, but it's an expansion of what someone else tells you is right or wrong or what you should or shouldn't do, challenge it and tell them why. Don't do it just to be an asshole, just to be that guy, but challenge it because you genuinely want to know the answer. And what that'll do for you is it'll keep your brain running. But when somebody like a teacher, an authority person says to you, this is how it is, you must do it like this. And you go, I think it could be different. Oh, but you know what? I'll go with your way. Shut your brain off. You shut your brain off from thinking and processing, and your brain is a processing machine. And he taught me to never let my brain shut off. Don't ever say, I don't know. Don't ever say I can't. Don't ever say something's not possible. Because just like the guy that broke the 5-minute mile or 4-minute mile, like it wasn't possible until he did it. So don't ever say something's not going to happen because you might be the guy that does it. Right. I mean, look, I run a very big coaching business. I have a Men on Purpose podcast, top 1% in the world, because I'm on my mission. Everybody else told me, like, why would you buy a podcast? Are you out of your fucking mind? Nobody's Google. I guarantee if you Google it today, how to buy a podcast, it still doesn't come up. I Googled it and I was like, it was no search found. And I'm like, oh, fuck, no results found. And I was like, everybody's telling me it's a dumb idea. I think I could do something with this. I'm going to go with it. And I'm willing to risk the amount of money I paid for the podcast, for the brand name, because it was a shit podcast. It was junk. It wasn't purposeful. It was run by a woman. So it's a little counterproductive. But not that women aren't on purpose, but a woman running a podcast called Men on Purpose, that doesn't really align. And I don't think it's as purposeful as possible. And it definitely was not purposeful. But look what happened in the last 13 months. I've only had this podcast for 13 months. We went from bottom barrel scrap ready for the landfill to top 1% because I took advice from 10 different experts in podcasting who all said it's a death trap. You'll waste your money. And I thought, I think if I share my message in a really clear manner, that other men don't have to go through this, and I can share my expertise in coaching, that I have a system and a setup and a structure to help men get through this, just like I help myself through and I help all my very high level clients around the world get through. If I share that, I think somebody will listen. So here we go. Chips all in.
Yeah.
No plan B. Set that boat on fire and blow that shit up with dynamite. I no plan B. Let's roll. And I said to my wife, she goes, my wife has always been my biggest supporter, even though she doesn't say it, she is. And I said, this is what it's going to cost us. And I think I can do it. And she goes, I trust you. Let's roll. And at that point, I was literally coming off of a business partner stealing $500,000 from us. I had to refire my real estate business. I was running out of money because I had to pay all these debtors off that are coming at me, plus all my other debt, plus all the real estate that I owned at the time. And I said, look, I need another X. And she said, sure. How are we going to get it? And I said, the universe will deliver it if it's supposed to. I trust. And dude, no joke, the next day I had a friend call me and he said, hey, my parents are looking to make an investment. And I said, look, if you buy real estate with me, you're making an investment in me anyway. Why don't you just make an investment in me and I'll pay you the same return, but I'll only pay you interest for right now because it's a little bit less, a little bit lower. And I use that money to buy the podcast. And I said, I don't have a choice. Now I'm in more debt. Like I just took on another 50 grand. That's not what I paid for the podcast, but that's what they wanted to lend. And I paid them a really high rate of return. And I said, give me 4 years to pay you back. And I'll pay you back. I pay you back in one. Like I know how to make a lot of money. I was making a lot of money, but Just give me some time. And they were cool. Like, whatever, they're making money on their money, way more than a account would, you know, or the stock market would. So you gotta step back, let go of the bar, let go of control. Don't worry about the outcome. Don't be focused on the outcome, because if you focus on the outcome, then you're not in the present. You're not doing the shit that's going to serve the outcome anyway. So let go of control, push your chips in, and don't worry about the outcome. And then the universe can deliver. And then you go, yeah, I'm clear because I don't have all those freaking distractions. That's what I'm supposed to do. Okay. Those guys weren't right. Those guys, very big podcasters, good friends of mine, and I bust their asses all the time about it. They weren't right. And if I would have followed that shit, I wouldn't be here serving the men on your podcast that I do. We wouldn't know each other, most likely. Right. And maybe I wouldn't be inspiring guys like you to get their dad on the podcast to share their dad's legacy and story. Like, dude, think about that. Those chips got to go all in. It's not save a couple chips maybe just in case it doesn't work. Push them all in. And then sit there stone faced and go, I can fucking do this. I can do it.
I remember I had that moment after I started I started this podcast in July of 2020. And when I started, it was something that I always wanted to do. I felt like I wanted to have this mission about building men in some capacity. I wasn't sure what it was going to look like, but so it was in a podcast form. But in the beginning, the first maybe 4 months of doing this, Ian, it was more like I was a principal trying to talk to, you know, 8th grade boys about life in a way that I still had to maintain like what the district wanted me to say. So I'm not going to curse. I'm not going to share anything personal about myself. I'm not going to, and my brother, who's 14 years younger than me, Anthony's my best friend in the world. I'm like blessed that he's, you know, we are so close. I'm 44. He's 30 years old. Our views on shit, it's hysterical listening to us talk to one another. One being brothers, like fuck around in a different way. But he had this moment where he's like, brother, he's like, you have something here. He's like, but you have this fucking condom over you. You know, you're not experiencing what you can experience. You're not letting other people get to know you because you're not being vulnerable. You're not just being like, fuck it. Here's my shit. Here's what I did right. Here's all the shit I did wrong. Right. And once I was able to do that pushing your chips in, it was that moment where I was like, oh, this feels good. This feels right. Just like not having a condom on, right? I mean, it's a fucking different world. Yeah. So it just felt like,
and there's intentionality when you don't have a condom on. It's something that can happen,
right?
I mean, granted, I guess it can happen risky, in a lower probability. Yeah, a little risky that way. That's a great analogy, dude. I was like, I'm doing a podcast with a condom on.
Without a condom on.
I'm picturing you with like a body condom on.
So the next time that we're together, you're gonna wear the Brad Speedo and I'll wear a condom hat. The next that we have together.
Yeah, man. Look, there's you can when you are on your mission. I have a program in my front runner events, my live events, my weekend retreats. I call them personal involvement retreats. They are deep dive. They will blast the dynamite that I talked about earlier. They are the dynamite for that core shit that you're guarding. And in one of the exercises is casting a vision, mission, and purpose for your life. And if you already have one, we're challenging it because that's alignment, right? And so when you find alignment, you trust the alignment. Like, it could be 1 degree off or 500 degrees, whatever it is. It could be off, but usually it's on. When you trust your gut, you gotta be as authentic as possible and not worry about what people are gonna think. I mean, dude, the person that sold me this podcast, she has so many fucking rules. Don't go over 27 minutes. Don't do this. If someone doesn't have a mic, you X them right away. Don't chase anybody. Everybody will come to you. Don't take high-level people. Take mid-level and low-level people as guests, because then they become your coaching clients, which, by the way, none of that shit worked in 160 episodes. And this is me telling the truth. This is just fact. 160 episodes of the old owner on Mental Purpose. Not one of those people became a coaching client, BTW. Not one of those people paid anything. Like, that formula didn't work. And that's why it wasn't on purpose. The formula didn't work. And so, in my opinion, I started that scared. If you listen to my first couple episodes, the first one's with my dad, episode 163, you'll hear a very different me and my dad versus episode 201. Listen to 163, listen to 201, and you'll hear a very different me. And that was me shedding that skin and going, fuck this. I have to give the world everything I've got. I've got to drop F-bombs because that's my normal language. Mm-hmm. I mean, not around my kids. Well, honestly, sometimes I accidentally slip, but like I owe them. This is legacy. This is it. Like, if I hold back, Am I really on my mission? Am I being as purposeful as possible? Am I helping the amount of people out there? Because, dude, there's one person out of maybe tens of thousands that will listen to your podcast today, this one. There's one person that's going to be like, oh my God, that's the missing puzzle piece. And now they get it. And now all of a sudden, generations are changed. Their income has changed. Their relationship has changed. Their fatherhood has changed. Their internal dialogue has changed because of what we're doing. We cannot be held back. We just can't. And self-imposed hold back or societal hold back, like when those chips go in, you got to bet on you. And that means you got to come out with everything you got. Risk making a mistake, risk offending somebody by dropping an F-bomb. Like I've never had a guest when I drop an F-bomb, I've never had a guest go, oh my God, I'm offended and I want off this podcast. Never. And I never will, because I don't attract people like that into my podcast. Just don't. But when you go all in, the feeling of satisfaction and fear that you have simultaneously is awesome. Like when you quit your job, or like when you got divorced, like you knew that this was the catalyst to the life that you truly wanted. And we talked about that on my podcast about divorce. Like it wasn't going to be what you wanted. You could not turn that ship. It was sinking, and it's okay. But once you became at peace with that and just accepted the outcome, however it was going to play out, you freed yourself to then the universe to then deliver the next thing for you. It's like if I'm sitting on this chair right now, you can't sit on this chair the same way I am. You can sit on my lap, my shoulders, the back. You could flip upside down and some weird kinky shit. It's like you with the condom on and me with the Borat speed. It's all the visual that fucking people need out there. But the point is, if I'm sitting here, you can't sit here in the same capacity in the most intentional way. I have to move myself off this chair, remove myself for the universe to then deliver the ability for you to sit in this chair. Same way. That's it. Same thing for anything in your life. Whatever is blocking you, you must eliminate it. If it doesn't serve the mission, it's got to go. It has to go. And you've got to be intentional with what you ask the universe. It rewards specificity. The universe rewards specificity. The more specific you can be, and you don't have to be right. It just has to be about what serves your life and what doesn't. If you're miserable inside, start making different choices. If you're fine and your marriage is suffering, start making different choices. Like just be intentional with it. And the universe rewards specificity. So when you cast that vision out of what you see as possible for your life, be specific, get dates and times and amounts of money and type of people. And like, I coach my clients who want to meet someone. I'm like, let's build them every single thing, how they laugh, how their hair smells. Because then your RAS is triggering. It's all, now it's scanning instead of like, just kind of like, oh, whatever, they'll just show up, I guess. Well, the universe will deliver who it's supposed to. But when you can specify what you're looking for, now you can see it, because the universe will always deliver. The problem is we can't always see because we're so distracted in our own brains and society. We're watching the news, we're on Facebook. You know, we're in a dead end job that we hate, but we're making a lot of money. So we're like, oh, I don't know, I'm a provider. Maybe it's irresponsible of me. The irresponsible thing is to stay in that job because you're not the person that you should be for your family. It's not.
And instead of you intentionally putting the dynamite and blowing the ship up, now it's this slow leak or this erosion where over time you realize, fuck, I'm at the bottom of the water right now. How the fuck did I get here?
Yeah.
And it's that point of being comfortable in that vulnerability where I told you when we talked on your podcast, I was this, things went right for me for such a long time. I got the job that I wanted. I was young as an administrator. It kind of looked a certain way. And I was fooled by that. It was a facade. It was bullshit. The way that it looked was not how it felt inside. I was living the life that I thought other people thought I should live based on societal norms. And it triggered me to start, because I knew it was a fake out. It triggered me to start looking for the negative in every situation. And so I started to get conditioned to feeling this like in an inauthentic way and looking for negative. That's a recipe for disaster. That's like, vinegar and baking soda together. It's going to fucking blow.
Absolutely. Yeah. It goes back to the Eagles quote, man.
Yeah.
It really does. It's as simple as that. That was a huge revelation. It was a huge revelation. Like the chains that bind you, you have the key. You literally have the key. And if you don't believe that, that's where you start. And if you do believe that, then the next thing you do is you take action. You make a call to somebody like Dennis or I. You pick up a personal development book. You start reading Stoic philosophy. You start reading the Tao Te Ching, like whatever it is. It's just the next thing. Like you've got things that you got to do. You got to take care of your mental and emotional health, your physical health. You got to take care of a lot of different things, maybe like 4 or 5, let's say. I think there's 10, but let's just call it 4 or 5. Well, like physical health and learning and emotional, like you could literally just take a walk around your neighborhood and listen to this podcast for an hour and you will get something. If you don't get something out of this podcast, you are closed off. You're 100% closed off, because what you're getting from Dennis and I are years of honing the craft and years of dialing in the machine. This wasn't me a year ago or 2 years ago, or it's me today. Mm-hmm. And I'm an expert at what I do because I hone my craft every day. And I believe that I'm the one in a million. And it's not an ego thing. It's just, I'm one in a million. Why can't I be? I've always done that my whole life. I'm not like you guys. And even in college, I remember I got in a fight. My buddy Chuck, who was in LA right before I interviewed with you, he was hanging out with the first 40th birthday. He was talking, he goes, what's crazy, man, is like I come into your house in LA and you still have mansion magazines on your coffee table, but it's because you run a real estate team in LA, and he goes, you remember in college, you used to read these like religiously and circle the shit you liked and the cars and the houses that you liked. And I said, yeah. He goes, remember that kid that was constantly fucking with you? You remember what he said to him? And I said, yeah, dude, I totally do. Because I said it to a lot of people who challenged me and my dream and my vision. Even though the intention was great, like, and it was kind of off course because it was like there to satisfy my fear. It's still something that I like. I like great architecture and cool, fast cars. And so this kid said to me, you're in school in Northeast Pennsylvania. Why the fuck are you reading magazines about $100,000 cars and $2 million houses? You'll never have that. And I said, well, see, that's where you're wrong, because I know I'll have that, where you don't believe it's possible, and that's okay. But guess what? There's good news for you. And this kid, a lot bigger than me, and I stood up, I faced him up, and I was like, the best news for you is that when I have a yacht, a mansion, and a jet, I'm going to need someone to serve me. And that could be you. So no matter if you doubt me or not, I'll achieve my goals without you, bro. But I'm going to need somebody to get me my wine. Need you to fetch me some peanuts, like probably mow my lawn. I'll have a job for you. That's the best part. I thought the guy was going to deck me. He got so pissed off. And Chuck was like laughing his ass off. And he remembered that. And he said, man, like your vision has always been the same. Like you want what you want and you're not going to let anybody deter it. And that's right. As long as it's not hurting anybody, which it's not, as long as I am serving people, because that's the big key. I can't have all that shit and not serve and give back. As long as that's happening, I can anything's possible. I mean,
and it is, and the people will follow you. If you believe in you and you believe in what you're doing, people will follow along on that. You will get to where you're going.
Totally.
I believe I'm one in a million as well, and there's enough millions in the world that you can believe that, and two people can absolutely believe the same exact thing. And one quote that is. It comes up from time to time in different podcasts that you do. It's about that baggage that we carry with us. Mm-hmm. And it's so much emotional baggage that starts to the way that it's like a physiological thing. This emotional baggage can kind of manifest itself in a physical way in how we are as men as well. But you're like, you need to heal the past to be able to be the best you and to feel like you're that one in a million person out there.
Yeah, you know what though? Healing the past is challenging. I equate it to the analogy I use is like the old style like limousines when they leave a wedding. The old style limousines when they leave a wedding are dragging cans. And just imagine that you're the limo and the cans are your traumas, your shit, your past, the stuff that your teachers and your parents in school and everybody told you that traumatized you. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'll never be enough. I'm never this. I'm not tall enough. I'm too short. I'm too fat. I'm not pretty enough. All that shit are those cans. And by the way, there's usually like 6 to 8 cans on the back of a limo. There's thousands on your limo. There's thousands. You cannot talk to those cans and make them change their tune. They're metal cans. This the past things that happened. What you do is you cut the string and you leave them in the past and you don't let them come up. So the limo pulls up to a stoplight. They're still 4 feet behind you. Make a turn. They're still 4 feet behind you. Come up to your house. They're still 4 feet behind you. They will create your present moment because you're allowing them to come into the present moment. And the past creates the present. And that's just what happens. That's trauma. And so if a situation today, if I had a guy like Dennis on a podcast who just started yelling at me and calling me a loser and a failure, like I might be bringing that can up into my present moment, looking at Dennis going, Fuck, this is a big guy. I got beat up by a big guy when I was in high school. Was this guy going to yell at me? Same shit. Same shit. No matter what happened to you, the story you tell yourself is on you. What happened is just something that happened. So cut the string, let that shit go. Let it just stay in the past. It doesn't serve you anymore. And it's totally okay. Stop making your identity about shit that happened to you in the past. Well, I was in a car accident a long time ago. Oh, well, that was 40 years ago. Like, have you not moved past that? Have you not rehabbed yourself? Like, okay, great. You were sick as a baby. Wonderful. I was in the hospital for 7 weeks. I was 6 weeks. I was 6 weeks premature. I was fucked up. Like, they didn't know if I was going to live. I'm not dwelling on that. My mom always tells me, she goes, you know, that it's interesting, every day for like weeks at a time, you didn't make a peep. And I prayed to God that all I could hear is just a sound out of your mouth. And you haven't shut the fuck up since. Like, literally. So that trauma doesn't affect my today. Or think about the variables that you're adding to today when you're bringing in thousands of possible things from the past. You have to learn how to cut those strings, and you make a choice. This time isn't like that time. I'm okay. Everything's cool. Let's go ahead and make a different decision right now. And you'll start to develop new habits, and new habits will create a new life.
And the way that I started the podcast was asking you to recall that moment, or there were those series of moments where you were waking up not liking the man that you saw in the mirror, and your wife had that conversation saying, listen, what do you want your daughter? What kind of man do you want your daughter to look up to as a father? And then how do you want this role model, this masculine archetypal role model to be for your daughter? Because you are helping her create that kind of vision in her mind of what that might be. You know, you mentioned that, you know, you put it out there in the universe, you need to see it and everything. So your daughter is taking that from you. So based on that, you know, what you want your daughter to emulate as far as like the masculine in her life, what would you say if you're telling her she's 25 years old, she's about to get married, and you would say, listen, hun, like this is what I want for you and for a man in your life, or this is the masculine role model that I want you to have. These are the things that I tried to do as a father for you.
Is she getting married, or is she talking to me about a guy she likes?
Say she's coming to you advice. Say this guy's knocking on the door. You meet this guy for the first time. What are the things that you would want your daughter to kind of, you know, to look for in a man?
Shit, man. By that time, it's too late, by the way. She's not asking me my advice at that point. She might ask me like, you know, what do you think of this guy, Dad, after I meet him? I'm like, it's like a nightmare to me. I can't even imagine my little.
He's a fucking douchebag. Don't bring him around here.
Right. I gotta think about myself at like 16, 18 years old. How fucking stupid I was.
Right. I would tell my daughter, run the fuck away. Well. Run away.
Yeah. You know what's crazy though? When I met my wife, I lived in a warehouse and I drove a windowless van. So what can I really say?
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
I think what like I would remind her of is, you got to look past the surface. You got to look past all the ego and the facade, and you really got to understand, because if you ask my wife today, like, why the hell did, like, her parents were okay with it because her parents knew me from before when I had some money. But by the time I met my wife, I was flat broke, living in my dad's warehouse because I couldn't get an apartment, and I didn't want to live at home with my parents, and I couldn't move back into my condo because I didn't have any money. So she knew who I was deep down, past the facade that I was putting on as like this tough guy and I have some money and, you know, whatever. So I think my training and the programming that I'm instilling in my daughter is to see past people's facade and really see somebody for deep down. Because if you ask my wife, she'll say, I knew who you were. I've always known who you were. And I knew you're a great guy who's going to do a lot of great for the world. And I knew you just had a bunch of shit. So what I'm teaching her now is to understand, and she's 5, is to understand people's agendas and to understand what people need from you. But I'm teaching her in terms of serving others and being genuinely curious about other people. So anytime she gets on the phone or meets somebody new, she must ask them, how are they and how is their day? Because she'll call my mom and ask her to come over. But I said, don't call somebody and just ask them for what you want. That's about you. If you make it about them, it's much more powerful. So call my mom, call Nana. How are you? I'm good, sweetheart. How are you? Good. How was your day? My day was great. What's going on? May I come over? Sure. You completely shifted the script there. And so I feel like she'll be able to know people at a deeper level. She'll be able to see through a lot of people's bullshit, and she won't. Good. Look, dude, she's going to be a 16-year-old girl one day. So she's going to fall for the guy that's got the smooth stuff, but she's going to know things in the back of her mind. Like, what's behind that smoothness? What's behind that? What fears back there? And she's not going to fall for that surface level shit. And so I'm not worried about her. She's a very smart kid, and she's a leader. She's very savvy. She's 5. I'm not worried about her. I'm not worried about my son. I'm a model. I'm the model. And as long as I own my purpose and my mission and my job as a model of a man on purpose, then I don't have to worry about them. They're going to make mistakes, but my advice would be the same thing my dad taught me. Always bet on you. Be smart about being stupid and all the other stuff that he taught me, because it's the same thing I tell them. I just do it in a little different way because I'm more evolved than my dad was when he was teaching me this at a younger age.
Right.
That's it. Nothing right or wrong, just more evolved.
And listening to you and your wife on your podcast, you and Meredith together on the podcast, your children, I mean, just the role models that they have, just the dynamic of the two of you together. It's a special thing. And the way that you play off each other, and I think there's something to be said about having a female perspective on your Men on Purpose podcast. I totally agree. The podcast needs to be hosted by a man from that perspective. We'll just put it differently, but to have that feminine aspect as part of the podcast, I think it's brilliant, by the way. And you probably have a lot of female listeners that just want to know, how should my significant other show up in our relationship, in our marriage? How should just advice that they might be able to give to a masculine figure in their life?
We're 65 or we're 60-40 women, 60% women listeners, 40% men, because women get an inside track. They get an inside track.
It's fascinating.
And it's interesting. It's very interesting. Like the conversations that my wife and I have, it's interesting, but dude, I'm not afraid of masculine or feminine energy. I don't do push-ups and prove myself in that manner and masculine sports and all that bullshit. I don't care about sports. I wear an LA Dodgers hat because I love LA. And it's so funny. People are like, "Oh, you a Dodgers fan?" I'm like, "What? No, I don't follow baseball. I don't give a shit about it. It's a total waste of time for me. I just like the city of Los Angeles, and I celebrate it. And I wear this hat and this shirt until I achieve my goal of moving there. That's it. Till my podcast is top 1% of 1%, you won't see me in anything else unless I need to go out and t-shirts aren't appropriate. And I don't stop wearing this hat until I'm there. That's my goal. That's the goal. So fuck you and I teared up last episode. So there's a beautiful mix of masculine and feminine energy. I fucking cried on the last episode I just did before this. I love that. I love being able to be that open, be a model, and create that space for other men to say, fuck man, this guy, I look at him on Instagram, I look at him on this, and I hear him on the podcast and he drops F-bombs. But the guy just teared up talking about his daughter with Dennis, man. That's so awesome. Yeah. You're talking about their daughters, and these guys are fucking crying on, tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of people will hear these episodes. And if anybody judged you and I for being emotional about our children and our role for them, like, fuck you. That's my statement. Fuck you. Yeah. Go get a life, man. Go tap into your feminine side. Go tap into your vulnerability and see what it means to be a complete man, not a football guy or like tough or fuck you. Seriously. Like then, and I don't mean that harsh. And I don't mean that derogatory. I mean, like, I'm putting a stop to that right now. I'm a model of someone who has a mix of masculine and feminine energy. So do you, like you, Dennis.
Absolutely.
And that's okay. And that's a great thing, because that's what our wives need. That's what our children need. They need the softer side of us. And I want to showcase that that's not a problem. That's okay for men to be able to tap into that. It's great.
I think my journey has been to try to define what masculinity means. We talked about it the last time when I was on your podcast about there's a million different definitions for masculinity. And I'm just trying to, like you mentioned, your vision, like you're trying to kind of hone down on what, like, to tighten it up. I'm doing the same with my definition of masculinity, but I'll tell you that there's a balance there between masculine, feminine energy, but also like being like stoically strong and, being able to protect, but also being vulnerable and allowing yourself to show emotion and not kind of hiding behind what you think people need to feel about you. You're able to be transparent at the same time.
Totally. Yeah.
There's
and
so much there.
That is what has allowed to, I don't have a perfect marriage, far from it. I'm not a perfect dad. I'm not that far from it. I'm a really great dad. I'll give myself that. I don't have the perfect marriage. I don't think anybody does, but being able to tap into those sides and have compassion and have more of that feminine energy and flow, and then know when your masculine energy needs to come in and be that more like straight, hard, not like yelling or anything, but I mean, femininity is flow. It's ease. It's just go with it. And that's not female. That's just feminine, the feminine energy. And it doesn't matter man or woman. We all have both.
Yes.
I think more men are afraid to tap into it because they're scared of, they might make them look like a certain thing, or they might be a sissy or something. I think the most powerful men out there are not afraid to cry in front of other men. And when I learned that, to share myself and to create a space where other men could be vulnerable with me, share their innermost fears and secrets and darkness, but I was in a position where not only could I create that space, but I could help them through it. That's power, dude. That's real power. That's real influence. That's real mission. That's real legacy. And that's, I'm so focused on that. And that's why the podcast is as successful as it is. And that's why, we have people beating down the door for our coaching, and corporations that are calling us, asking us to help their employees or help the CEO who's melting down and they're getting divorced and they're losing millions. And we have those clients in China and Japan and Brazil and California and Canada and Chile, like all over the place, because this mission is so clear, just like yours is. It's so clear. But you gotta push those chips on you and be real clear with where you're going.
And I mentioned that the one episode where my brother kind of called me out on my shit, that was an episode. Basically I was talking about seeking approval, and I just needed to shed that shit to stop worrying about what other people thought about me. And I did this whole episode of where it started when I was in middle school and I was getting bullied by kids that were older. I got my ass kicked and I broke down. I didn't see it coming. I wasn't prepared for it. But as I started to talk, I was like, how when when you get choked up, it's like literally like my throat comes up, and I was like, oh, well, I'm trying to fucking say something. But it was I got more at the time. I got more people reaching out from that podcast saying, oh my God, I remember you back in middle and high school. I didn't know that shit was going on. I didn't know that you fucking hated the world, and you were so, it was really, really powerful. But being able to be masculine enough to get in touch with that vulnerability, it's such an important thing that we need to teach our sons. Like I tell my son all the time, he's 16 years old, like it's like, feel into it, man. What are you feeling? You don't have to shut it down. Talk to me about how you're feeling. Let me help you through it if I can. And if I can't, let me find someone that can help you through it.
Yeah. Don't stop that brain. Don't get emotional. Don't stop that brain from forward progressions.
So Ian, I know.
Hours. Yeah.
I know you're a fucking busy man between two coasts. I see the Men on Purpose shirt and the hat, and that's like you with the magazines, with the yachts and the mansions. I get it. I definitely feel that. I'll
get what I want.
Yes, and if there's anything I could ever do to support you, because I truly believe in what you're doing and your mission and your purpose, and I feel very blessed to have come into contact with you and to connect with you. So tell the Building Men audience how they can find you and all your different platforms.
Sure, super easy. Just at Men on Purpose Podcast on Instagram. It's my name on Facebook, just Ian Lobas on Facebook. I'm the only one, and then just same thing for the websites, menonpurposepodcast.com and ianlobas.com. It's nice and easy. And we've got a really cool event coming up. I don't know when this is going to air, but July 8th. My front runner, so frontrunner.group, we've got a really sick, that retreat, the mastermind that I was telling you about, the deep dive personal involvement retreat. We've got that coming up. Pricing's still really good. We got 3 seats left. It's a mind blower. And our mission on that is to make sure that weekend is the shift in your life that you'll remember forever. That's our mission. That's the only thing we care about, is that this is the shift you needed. We'll give you the skills. We'll give you the space, the support. We do pre-coaching, post-coaching. Literally, it's the best value out there for a deep, deep dive weekend mastermind retreat, period. And we built it because of what we did and didn't like from other places. So frontrunner.group, menonpurposepodcast.com. Reach out to me, DM me if you want to get in deep into something. I'm always down to talk.
Yeah, that's how we kind of connected in a weird way. It's funny. I listened to the podcast with you and Jamie Gruber. And I'm going to have him on Building Men. I'm interviewing
friend, man.
Yep. I'm interviewing him next week, and so he'll be on the Building Men podcast. But that was, you guys were talking about what you're offering in that program, the value that you're getting versus what you're charging for the program. He's like, you're fucking crazy for what you're charging.
Dude, I am crazy. But you know what? Right now, while I can do it right now, while the company's not really, really big and we're busy with some other businesses, or, not busy, but like we're involved in some other businesses, and I have real estate companies around the country, and we're firing one up in St. Martin soon. Then like, that's just me as a CEO. I don't sell real estate anymore, but dude, what that program is that Jamie brought us in to build out, or what Jamie built, and then Jamie brought us in to really build it out for these people. I mean, it's incredible. So like, people can go to that. The Ascend program through GoAbundance is phenomenal. And Aaron and I are the coaches in it every month, 2 times a month. We are personally coaching you through your shit. And we're giving you our entire 1-year coaching program. And it's ungodly cheap for what you get. I mean, the amount of hours you get from Aaron and I easy is worth $100,000. And it's a mere fraction of that. I think it's like five or $6,000 for the year.
And so,
but
to find Building Men, it's building.men on Instagram, Building Men Podcast on Facebook. Email is buildingmencoach@gmail.com. For Ian, I will definitely put all the information in the show notes. I'm gonna post the hell out of this on Instagram. I would love to do this again in a couple months to see where we are on our respective journeys. And at that time you'll be in LA. I'll wear something even fancier on that episode. Maybe I'll wear a
dude. By that time you'll have a Building Men shirt.
Oh, absolutely. That it's already in the works right now. Oh, we got to do the Borat and the condom hat for the next time that we're together. That's what we need to fucking do right there.
I'm definitely as hairy as Borat.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for listening, and we will see you next time on Building Men.